Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Holger Ostheimer, Managing Director of DC Aviation Al-Futtaim. That's the Dubai outpost as part of the DC Aviation Group. Now, I've followed the introductory session and I felt compelled to think along and be inspired. And I'm no longer part of the Atari community. I was always a PlayStation guy. PlayStation 5 today. I'm on the Harleys and I like a bit of fairy dust. But we also, I'm also very much a person of today's world. And I find it very interesting to follow the discussion at a time where we are all just a little bit out of our comfort zone. And I'm just trying to turn off this thing here, the subtitles, where we're all a little bit out of the comfort zone, you know, reaching hopefully the end of the pandemic, and having a discussion about the future of our business. Not 100% sure about the audience, but I kept it fairly broad into going through the subject that I was tasked to talk about. How can you determine if you need a private jet? Many of the discussion points that already arose, we will address in the course of this presentation, and it's going to be in a way in a structure that will see us working it through from the need of an aircraft, the advantage that it brings along, the language, the various different aircraft types, and the conclusion of it. And we could very well make it a sociologic, economical discussion, but it's a very technical subject, so I try and keep it kind of on a technical level. So what is it if you're running short of the reach of a Zoom conversation, and if you have the means, what is it that the need defines to operating an aircraft? It's transportation requirements. Obviously, you want to go from A to B, and you want to cover a fair level of distance with it. It's the flexibility requirements. If you want to be in a place at a time, at your leisure or at your opponent's leisure, and if you obviously want to have the convenience of passing through the various different steps on getting on an aircraft or off, that just makes it a lot more convenient and time-saving. And of course, for many people that are able to refer to the tool of the use of an aircraft, and I'm being very careful now with the terminology, and I will get into this a little later, whether it's a private aircraft, a corporate aircraft, or a business jet aircraft. Let's just say if you have a means available to yourself that is outside the confines of scheduled air traffic, then it's the confidentiality and the privacy that allows you to get an aircraft, not to be seen, not having to talk to anyone, being able to have discussions that you can have between a certain number of counterparts, not being overheard, and do that without any further worry. And what's the advantage? So let's say you are able to travel on one of those aircraft. It's the face-to-face meetings. We've talked a great deal about the proper arrival of virtual conferencing, whether that's Zoom or any other way. What it doesn't do, it does not provide for a face-to-face interface. What I've taken along from the discussion previously is the generational gap that we had. One, an aging population of people owning aircraft, a younger generation arriving on the scene with financial capabilities, socially with a slightly different imprint. Our generation, the ones that used to do Atari and mopeds and having grown into the professional world, they would surely prefer a face-to-face meeting once it is about having a meeting or having to take a consequential decision out of a face-to-face meeting involving a large business transaction. It's the totaling schedule and freedom that you can say, I want to leave, I want to arrive at a particular time, and I don't want to arrive at an airport 150 miles away from the venue. I want to arrive at a place that is only about 5 or 10 minutes away. It's the onboard IT connectivity. Many people that are listening, are watching today, they may not truly familiar with the capabilities, but the jet industry is very much in the process of propelling the IT connectivity into the 21st century. Online streaming, conferencing facilities from out of an aircraft cabin. And that from a place, like I just said, to go wherever you want to. It's not Detroit. It may be Auburn Hills if you are an automotive business and you want to avoid the 1.5 hours of traffic jam on the way, rather than arriving 10 minutes next to your site. Or whenever, as previously stated, to meet at a time, to delay your schedules, to adjust your schedules, however it may be required. And that really ends up providing with the advantage to making the impossible possible. And we're not talking about mere convenience only. This may be a reason, but a lot of our clients that are owning aircraft, that are thinking of owning an aircraft, have a very packed schedule, a big agenda to follow. And if you need to be at one place in the world one day and at the opposite side of it just a few hours after, you will be hard pushed to achieving that with an airline schedule, even if you found a combination of various different airlines. That alone will obviously be able to use a corporate, private, or business aircraft. And if you look at what's on hand, short distance flights with very light jets, 4 to 6 passengers, and you fly for 2.5 hours, and you scale this up from light business jets and mid-size and super mid-size and large jets and bisliners with or without shower, whether you're traveling for 2, 4, 6, or even 10 to 15 hours and manage to surpass large parts of the globe. All of those aircraft in operation nowadays provide the feasibility. Now, again, not being exactly sure about the audience here, those stakeholders in the early discussions, David, Josef, people that obviously have a firm footing in the industry, being totally aware of all the vocabulary around the aircraft. Nonetheless, just in case there is people in the audience not totally familiar, I would just like to give a quick outline as to what is behind, these labels: jet, private jet, business jet. If you sit on a private jet, the aircraft will be registered so that you can operate the aircraft for your own purposes, for your own personal interest, with no commercial gain. If you are doing this in a business capacity, and I put this into a context between corporate and business jet, this aircraft will be owned by a corporation, used by the head of the business or by subordinate members of this organization. Or you have large aircraft that may look like an airliner, but they're not. An Airbus A319, A320, a Boeing 737 of whatever specification. In a normal world, under scheduled considerations, where people will take people from A to B, 150 of those over a 2-hour flight. In contrast, you can take the same aircraft, you can outfit this, and Canberra Aviation will probably be best suited to provide you with a little bit of advice. And you're falling short, you can always ask us too. But these aircraft hulls, these aircraft can be used for very much individual purposes too. And if you think about an aircraft being taken from A to B, a serious consideration has got to be the regulation that is involving the proper conduct, the proper care that it comes along with. And here you have a difference. It is a difference whether you have an aircraft under private operation or corporate aviation, or as a commercial jet that you would use partly if you wanted to for your own purposes, but make it available to third parties to use the aircraft for commercial gains. Then it will become such a private aircraft, in bracket, will become a commercial aircraft. And if that's the case, you would have to follow the route of sourcing an aircraft operator that is accredited with an aircraft operator certificate, making sure that the governing Civil Aviation Authority is satisfied with the way this aircraft is operated. What has been in the public domain for many years, certainly for almost the last 20 years, and NetJets is probably one of the most prominent ones here, the type of fractional ownership, so that you don't just own an aircraft, you share the ownership of this aircraft, if you like, with a number of different entities. And if you were not to own an aircraft in parts or in full, if you weren't operating it privately or commercially, you may want to charter an aircraft, use aircraft capacity in the market of aircraft, and that's something you may want to look out for if ever you yourself or any affiliate or a client of yours was thinking of chartering an aircraft, that this aircraft for charter has got the required credentials, i.e. being operated by an operator with an aircraft operator certificate and so forth, entitling for the aircraft being made available for commercial use, that the charter client at the end of it can comfortably book a flight, pay for it, sit in the aircraft, take off and land without any worry, and even being properly insured and well catered for. I've talked about the various different types of registration. It's the commercial registers, the aircraft's seats. Civil Aviation Authority will have an interest in how the aircraft is being maintained, how the aircraft is being operated. You have offshore registers of owners having business interest in various different jurisdictions that are allowing for aircraft to be operated in the Cayman Islands, the Isle of Man, as far as San Marino even, to providing vehicles for an aircraft to be operated and be safeguarded under a type of operation. And then it becomes very much a case as to how many pilots are flying this aircraft, how is their crew scheduling being organized, how many duty days have they had, how many hours have they flown on a trot. If the aircraft is being operated by an operator, the airworthiness of it is very much at stake. The manufacturer of the aircraft, the Civil Aviation Authority, will have an interest whether maintenance schedules are being adhered to, and so forth. Aircraft performance, whether an aircraft is operated privately or commercially, will tell you whether you can use a particular airport with a defined length of runway or not. And of course, weather, something that's completely out of our control. And I can luckily say that through the most times of the pandemic here, we had beautiful weather in Dubai, getting a little bit hot now, but weather is of great significance, whether you can conduct flights or not. And all of this, talking about private business jets or corporate jets, is worth keeping in mind when talking about these types of aircraft being used for specific purposes. And you know, from a conclusion, what is it that comes out at the end of it to get you to that target? An aircraft is not a cheap piece of kit. It is a complex asset. It's not only expensive. If you buy an older generation second-hand aircraft, that will probably be coming out at about the $3 million, and you can buy something new, very large cabin, taking you a far distance at up to $70 million. The time planning is providing you with a great level of flexibility. It offers a widespread geographic footprint, and time schedule are not an issue. If you were leaving from London to Beijing for a meeting and wanted to be in Brussels, if ever there was a need in future, then this would be possible. On an airliner, this wouldn't be. And it would certainly be possible to have all those meetings on Zoom, but pending significant decisions of great significance and magnitude, a face-to-face interface may just be the right thing. And for that, an aircraft and these various different options would be at hand. Now, what's critical here is the safety and security requirements. You would want to be looking out for. David represents the DAX Aviation Group. I would like to throw ourselves in the ring as well as the DC Aviation Group. But organization like ours make sure that those aircraft are being operated in a safe fashion, both from a flight operations perspective as well as from an airworthiness side. And on top of it, undertaking travel in the most discreet and secure way is definitely an argument for an aircraft. And it provides the convenience of direct access to remote locations. I've put up this example earlier. It's not Detroit, Wayne County. It may be Oakland International that gets you right to the automotive campus in Auburn Hills. And the managing of very complex travel schedules. And it's the most convenient and time-saving way. Now, it's very, very clear this is only really an option for a very selected niche of clients. But what it is to be said, at a time where everybody was confined to very limited resources and very limited tools, be it Zoom or Teams or anything else that restrained everyone in a virtual domain, for a certain clientele, the operation of a private jet or a corporate jet may just be the solution.
Thank you very much, Holger. Thank you. That was very interesting and very insightful. So actually, I have a question for you. You've touched there on the various different types of ownership and so on, and obviously there are different ways to enjoy business jet usage, be it chartering or be it fractional ownership, or the owner operator model. I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can enjoy using a business jet. Do you see in the future that any one of those options is going to prevail over the others? And also, I'm just wondering, in terms of the geographical market as well, where you see is the sort of biggest growth area for private jet ownership in the future.
I think we have to look at it in a very differentiated fashion. We are lucky to be placed in Dubai at this moment in time with a lot of demand through to the fact that there has been limited capacity and limited resources to conduct travel. How this is going to shape in future, especially in consideration of a generational change. We see that a lot of people owning aircraft are coming of age, and the younger generation is to follow. That really, in one area, it is not going to change, and that's the area of the ultra high net worth individuals. What is clearly going to change is the composition of social networking. What, for me, and I really had to laugh when David was referring to the Atari people and the bikers, and I was always a PlayStation guy and a motorcyclist, so I was probably right in the middle. But our generation is coming of age now, and is for the younger generation to follow, and their social composition is of a different fabric, where we very much appreciate the physical interface, a proper handshake, a look into the eyes, the mimics in the flow of a conversation, to actually being able to build an opinion that founds an actual decision that could in the end represent a couple of $100 million or $1 billion worth of transaction value. That is certainly of consideration. Whether that is still going to be the case for the next generation or the generation in about 15, 20 years, I highly doubt that. People will probably be very happy to having a discussion in the virtual domain, and potentially developing skills to reading somebody's brain through a computer display. But there is definitely a residual capacity of people that will want to fly. And at the low end of the market, the per seat sale, the smaller aircraft, the shorter distances, that is something to be found out. But what I seem to think, there has been advances over time with people coming up with different operation models, and the regulatory constraints not being put into consideration. Over decades, post-Second World War, the United Nations, ICAO, the freedoms of the air, a lot of thought have been put in to regulating international exchange, allowing aircraft from various countries to landing, to transiting, to do whatever. That is highly get up for the airline traffic, for the then national airlines. And then you have these trend breakers, so people that are coming onto the market, wanting to sell per seat, wanting to fly at a schedule, which kind of defeats the previous nature of the use of aircraft. And that is something to find out, whether people want to take advantage. And this is something I can very well see. We can see it in the United States, in the United States, where an individual with moderate financial capabilities very easily books a seat on a Citation 2 and flies from Orlando to New York. But in how far, especially in the international realm, this is going to be put into a regulatory framework, that is interesting to be seen.